Yo, what's good, man? I'm Logan. I'm going to show you how to make Lacto Fermented Mango Habanero Salsa. There are many different ways you can go about doing this. I'm going to show you the vacuum sealed bag method. The lacto fermentation process really builds and develops an insane flavor that you just can't replicate any other way. So we have 6 ingredients for this recipe. I have mangoes and habaneros, naturally, right? Tomatoes, 1 red onion, 5 garlic cloves, and then fine sea salt. Now, the kind of salt that I like to use is 100% sea salt. No additives, no anti-caking agents, not iodized salt, none of that crap, because I just want all these flavors to be naturally tasting as possible. And I find that salt that's iodized has a weird kind of off taste to it. I don't really care for it. And then I definitely don't want to be using anti-caking agents when I'm fermenting anything. So going back to this batch, I did frozen mangoes and I used kosher salt that had anti-caking agents just to kind of experiment to see if it would actually ferment, and obviously it did. So this batch I did with frozen mangoes, that's just to kind of show you that if you can't find fresh mangoes when you're wanting to make this, you can absolutely do it with frozen mangoes. So before doing any chopping, I like to put a damp paper towel underneath my cutting board. That way it doesn't, flop around and slide around on you. Kind of could be dangerous, right? And of course you need a favorite sharp knife that you have. So talking about the mangoes first, mangoes have a pretty large stone in it. So if you kind of just see right here, the stone is narrower right here than it is this way. So you take the mango and I'm gonna cut the slit down right here first, right? I mean, you could definitely feel it. The one cool thing about using frozen mangoes as opposed to fresh is that you don't get any waste from frozen mangoes. I prefer the flavor that you get from fresh mangoes, but you don't get any waste using frozen. I like to use the tip of my knife to kind of see where that stone is, where it ends up, slice from there. The way I like to get the flesh away from the skin is kind of like doing an avocado. So very carefully, you use the tip of your knife and you're making slices lengthwise and then widthwise, right? Obviously you want to be very careful doing it that way because you don't want to poke your knife through the skin and cut your hand, right?
Now very carefully, using your knife, cut the mango chunks right off the mango skin. Once you have all 3 mangoes cut up, put them into a large mixing bowl. Now we have these little cherub tomatoes. Lay them down on the cutting board, and all we're going to do with these is cut these in half. Once they're all cut in half, place them into the mixing bowl with the mangoes. Now we take the red onion and cut the onion into a medium rough dice. Now place the cut onion pieces into the mixing bowl with the mangoes and the tomatoes. Give the garlic a light smash on the cutting board, remove the outer paper layer, cut the root end off, and give the garlic a rough chop. Place the chopped garlic into the mixing bowl. The habaneros, all you really need to do with these is pull the stems off. If they're nice and fresh, the stems should have a decent amount of resistance to them. I do recommend wearing rubber gloves when you're handling habanero peppers. Cut the habanero peppers in half. As you're cutting the peppers in half and removing the seeds, inspect the insides of the peppers themselves, make sure nothing is rotten. Once the seeds are removed, give the peppers a rough chop and place them into the mixing bowl. Everything is chopped and placed into the mixing bowl. We are coming together very nicely. Now we want to place an empty mixing bowl onto the scale, set the grams, and tare or zero the scale out. Place all those chopped ingredients into the mixing bowl. Now you want to take note of this weight, 749 grams, and you want to multiply that by 2% and you get 14.98. grams. Now round to the nearest whole number and you get 15 grams, and that is the amount of salt that you need. Now place the small bowl onto the scale, tare it, and then add the 15 grams of fine sea salt into the bowl. Now sprinkle the salt onto the ingredients in the mixing bowl. Give the ingredients a gentle stir to evenly coat all those ingredients with the salt. This step is very important. You want to make sure that all those ingredients get fully covered with the salt. The salt is there for 2 things. Number 1, it's going to pull moisture from the ingredients and it's going to inhibit bad bacterial growth. Now we set up the vacuum sealer, and I like to double seal the ends just for safety measures. Put all those ingredients into the vacuum bag. It's really hard to see on camera, but you definitely want to make sure that you get all the salt into the bag as well, just in case it gets stuck on the bottom of the bowl. Now you want to use a clean kitchen rag and clean the inside of the bag where we're going to be sealing it in the next step. Make sure you lay all of those ingredients down flat and nothing is overlapping. Now place the open end of the bag into the vacuum sealer, vacuum out all the air, and double seal it. Now that we have everything vacuum sealed in the bag, you're going to want to leave this on a countertop for about 7 days to ferment.
After about day 3 or 4, you should see signs of fermentation, and it's going to start inflating like this. So you want to make sure that you leave enough headspace right here so that after about day 3 or 4, you're going to start seeing signs of fermentation happening and the bags can inflate like this, and you're going to need to release some of the gas on day 4, maybe even 5, and then reseal it, right? Does that make sense? So put this on the countertop at room temperature. What I like to do is put this bag on a cookie sheet like this, and then keep this on a countertop, or I like putting this in my pantry because it stays a consistent 68 to 70 degrees in my house, no matter what time of year I'm in, no matter what time of day I'm in. It's consistent in temperature, which is what you want. Room temperature, 7 days is gonna ferment, and you're gonna need to deflate the bag after about day 4 or 5, reseal it, and then let it keep fermenting. So 7 days on this mango habanero salsa is definitely the sweet spot. I found that the flavors on that are at their optimum peak, right? When I was testing the recipe, I let it go for 2 weeks, and I didn't really care for how acidic and sour it became. 7 days is definitely the sweet spot on this one, but definitely play around with it. If you let it go longer than 7 days, then you're gonna have to leave yourself a lot of headspace in that bag. That way you can cut open the bag, release the gas, reseal it, cut open the bag, let those gases out, reseal it. You know what I'm saying? Just kind of give yourself enough headspace in that bag that you could do a couple times if you let this ferment more than 7 days, okay? These juices are really good. I like just keeping it in the salsa, but you could also use this as a base for a vinaigrette, use it in a marinade.
Besides the obvious signs of this lacto fermenting by the vacuum bag inflating the way it did, I like to check the pH on it. I'm looking for anything around 3.8, 3.6. Definitely you want to keep it under 4.6, which is where bad bacterial growth happens if it's over that. So I keep this in the clean mason jar. You definitely want to consume this within 1 to 2 days. Otherwise, it's kind of keep fermenting, and I found that it gets a little bit fizzy on the palate, which is really not that enjoyable. If you want to hang on to this for longer than 5 days, then I recommend freezing this for 24 hours to kill the fermentation. Yes, it's going to kill that beneficial bacteria that's good for probiotics. However, I love the flavor profile of this and I want it to remain the same and not necessarily keep fermenting, which will change the flavor profile. I'm placing this into a Ziploc bag because I don't want the vacuum sealed bag to squish down all these ingredients and make them super mushy after they defrost. I've found that out the hard way, okay? I'm just letting you know from experience. Place this into the freezer for 24 hours, pull it from the freezer, let it defrost on that countertop, and you're ready to go. This is what it looks like after it's defrosted. Everything's nice and bright and vibrant. Everything still has structural integrity, has a nice little bite to it, and it's very, very sweet, very, very, very spicy and delicious.